I've said in the past, this particular series perhaps speaks more so than any other to the heart and soul of the community. The amazing organizations and dedicated staff and volunteers who we've been able to host on the show and who we plan to host on the show, who themselves perform acts of chesed and kindness in a way that gives dignity to so many members of the Jewish community, is something that certainly deserves to be highlighted. Chesed is a tremendous opportunity that is available to every single person, regardless of who one is. Everyone has this opportunity. Chesed speaks to creation. It speaks to a tremendous gift given to every single one of us. One becomes a partner in the creation of a new reality, a reality that is better and a reality that is more positive. As mentioned, I hope through the series is to highlight, number one, recognition and gratitude for the tremendous dedication and commitment to those that it is certainly very much due. Number two, through recognizing what is done, we can, please God, be inspired, and we can, please God, inspire one another to do a little bit more. We all need each other, and everyone can make a difference. Tonight, as mentioned 2 weeks ago, this chesed speaks to a tremendous need, especially in the context of our community. And again, I'm really looking forward to hearing more about what they do in this specific unit and how they do it. Tonight, Zaka Part 2, the Fire Containment Unit, Josh Green and Yosef Jameson, interviewed by Rob Katz. With that, I'd like to hand over to Rob.
Thank you, Rabbi, and a warm welcome, A, to our viewers, and B, to Josh. Welcome back, Josh, and to Yosef. Welcome, Yosef. Just a reminder to our viewers, and I know that we've got some new viewers today watching for the first time. Please feel very, very free to mail in questions or comments. To the extent that the questions or comments are valid and are not going to be covered in the show, I will make every attempt to put your question or comment to the participants so we can get a very full picture and an interactive session going tonight. But before we do that, I just want to hand back to Josh. Josh, welcome back. Just want to unmute yourself. Hello, Josh. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, Josh, as you well know, 2 weeks ago we had Zaka on, and we just didn't do justice to the whole gamut of what Zaka is. We certainly couldn't. I know we literally had a little bit left for the fire unit, and really due to quite a big demand from our viewers, we quickly after the show agreed that we would dedicate a full show just to the fire containment unit and what Zaka does in that alone. So I really want this program to focus entirely on the fire. That's what the specific focus of Zaka Part 2 is. But just for those viewers who are new to the show today, who didn't have the benefit of Zaka Part 1, can I just ask, not more than 5 minutes, if you can just, excluding the fire unit, which you're going to do due justice to right now, just talk literally just about what Zaka is, or the other parts of Zaka, before we start today's program.
All right. Firstly, Rob, thank you so much for having us. Yourself, Robert Zolberg, the bass, and everyone else involved in the background. Thank you for having us on your interview today. Just a bit of background into what Zaka is. It was formed in Israel a couple of years back at the peak of the suicide bombings. I'm going to skip all the details, but it started off in Israel. The main idea of Zaka would be the Chesed Showcase, or Chesed Showcase, or in simple English, true kindness, which is the work of going into a traumatic scene, like a suicide bomb blast, God forbid, in Israel, and going in and cleaning up body parts and gore, etc., in accordance of Jewish halakha. That was then adopted, and various Zaka branches were opened around the world. In South Africa, we opened the Zaka branch, and thank God, Bli Ayin Hora, we don't have those kind of calls that they've experienced in Israel. But we are called on when there's, God forbid, a traumatic suicide, if there's a traumatic car accident, and other types of calls where there's a need to go in and do a cleanup. Jewish halakha mandates that the way you come in is the way you go out. You've got to go out as whole as possible. And God forbid, in the environment where there's, I'm going to try not get too gory, but where there's body parts or blood or body tissue, etc., We've got a specialized team that go in. It's horrendous work, and it's called Chesed Showcase, true kindness, because there is no thank you for it. The deceased is never going to say thank you for it. It's guys that come in quietly. They come in, they do the job, and they leave quietly. There's no media, as you can imagine. It's very sensitive, very difficult to publicize, and that's the main arm of Zaka. From that came the search and rescue arm of Zaka, which also started off in Israel, and then various branches opened up around the world. In South Africa, we have one branch of search and rescue called LUSAR, which is your light search and rescue, light urban search and rescue. So mainly hand tools, smaller tools, digging, anything that you don't need heavy machinery for, or very specialized equipment. And we're actually launching now a full USAR course, an urban search and rescue course, together with various other organizations to train a full team in the full USAR spec, which includes high angle rescue, trench rescue, confined space rescue, and a whole range of other forms of rescue. So that's something that's coming up. We'll probably kick it off in the next week or two with training, starting off with training, and then run through it for the entire year. This coming year, please God, it was got a bit delayed with COVID. There's another branch of Zaka, which is called population intelligence. Pretty much in short, it's an understanding or trying to gain a knowledge and understanding of a scene. So God forbid a building collapses. You have guys who are trained in population intelligence. They're going to go there and try and understand what time of day was it? Who can you expect would be in the building during that time of day? Was it the morning? Was it the afternoon? Would kids be at home now? Would mainly be domestic workers at home, older people, younger people, etc., etc. And you start breaking down all that information so that when the rescue guys do get there, they know what they're dealing with. They're dealing with majority an older crowd. They're dealing with majority, there's going to be kids involved, etc., etc. And all those different dynamics are based on time of day, time of place, etc. So that's population intelligence. And then we have another arm of Zaka called relief, which works both internally and externally. So relief internally for the guys themselves, God forbid, in a scene where there's a fire or a rescue scene, a building collapses or something happens, and there's guys spending hours on a pile of rubble. Relief will come in and look after us. And then there's an external relief where not only us, but God forbid the person that's been affected by such an incident, they'll also be looked after by the relief. And then we also do outreach projects within the various communities, which I'll touch on a little bit later. And then the final branch of Zaka, which we opened about a year and a bit, just under a year ago, just over a year ago, is the FCU, the Fire Containment Unit, which is what we'll hopefully talk about this evening. So that's pretty much a rundown of what Zaka in South Africa consists of.
Right, thanks, Josh. Josh, just for those again who weren't around 2 weeks ago, just quickly, what does Zaka stand for?
I don't remember the Hebrew off by heart, to be honest with you. I've gone blank with the Hebrew acronym.
Okay, we'll come to it later, but the English?
Come to it, yeah. The translation of it is helping those that can't help themselves, basically. Come back to me on the translation. I'll get back to you on the translation. I actually don't know it off by heart, funnily enough.
Don't worry about the Hebrew. None of us are Hebrew experts here. It's more just what Zaka really in English stands, because I was going to ask you that in any case, Josh. Not that important. Okay. Before we kick off, just to let our viewers know, I know that through the course of these series, everyone or a lot of people want to know how to contribute to the organization. Moshe Zulberg has put the contact details, the bank account on the system for everyone, but if anyone can't get it, please feel very free to use the Q&A or chat show, and we'll send the details to you privately. Right, Josh, let's get started on today's show. The Fire Containment Unit. When and how did this unit start?
So just before I started there, I just want to introduce my partner, Yosef Jameson, who's also on this show. He'll be chatting in a minute or two, or in a couple minutes. When did Zaka start? Zaka started, the FCU started about a year ago. It was Shabbos, late morning Shabbos. We were at Shul, we were doing some security duties outside, and we saw smoke coming up, in the sky. A couple of us realized it was too close not to be concerned, and we took a bit of a trek. There happens to be a petrol station right near our shul, so we thought maybe it was that. We quickly went there. We crossed the road and followed the smoke and the commotion. When we got to the scene, it was a garage, adjacent to our house that had caught a light. At that time, for the first, call it 5 or 10 minutes, it was only the garage that had caught lights. And we had tried with a few fire extinguishers that we had lying around, the various services that arrived on scene, tried with a few extinguishers. Fire department had been called, and unfortunately it's a bit of a waiting game. And we stood there watching what was a small containable fire that had we had the correct resources or a fire department that was there within minutes, it would have been contained and there would have been minimal loss, minimal damage, a couple thousand rand. But instead we sat there watching an entire house burn to the ground. Literally we saw the fire jump from the garage to the main house, and then the second it hit the main house, the roof went up, and once the roof goes up, that's pretty much it. And we stood there watching this, and eventually the fire department came, and they didn't have water, and then they did have water, and then the tank was leaking, etc., etc. And when we left that scene, I've been a member of various organizations, and I've been to many fires over the years. And when we left that scene, I said to the guys, guys, it cannot be that we stand at another fire waiting for a fire truck to arrive, doing nothing. There's only a certain amount of fire extinguishers you can keep in your car. So it was right then and there that we decided, there was myself, Yossi Lazarus, who's part of the management committee of Zaka, together with Yosef Jameson, who heads up the fire containment unit, and Daniel Foreman. And the four of us decided right then and there that we're going to do something. We're launching something. Come Sunday morning, we're going to launch something. Monday, I phoned a couple of these guys that work on the farms that make those farming trailers with water, and we put our order in. We didn't have any donations at that time. A deposit had to be paid. I transferred money from myself, from my own money, to get that off the ground. I was told I was crazy, a little bit of a risk, but I was very, I firmly believed that something this important would be, eventually people in the community would catch on, and thank God people did. And people came forward and started helping out, etc. And that was where the FCU was really born, from that Shabbos call. From there we go on to, we go on to how we function today. Just to give the community a bit of an idea regarding fires, we've had a fire a week in the last 16 weeks. So if you take the last 16 weeks, let me rephrase it, we've had a serious fire a week in the last 16 weeks, based on our stats. We've had 30 fires, over 30 fires.
Sorry, Josh, can I just come in there for 1 second? When you say you've had 16 fires over the last 16 weeks, is that 16 fires within the community or fires that have been outside the ambit of the community?
16 fires in the community. 16 serious fires in the community. Okay, that could be a lightning hitting an electric pole and it burning and sparking right nearby a house. That could be a tree that gets hit by lightning that, had it not been extinguished, would have caught along. So it doesn't mean necessarily that the house was burning, but we've had 16 call-outs for serious fires within the past 16 weeks, and we've had 30 calls in total, which were less serious fires, or should I say, call-outs that wasn't as bad, etc., etc. But that's just to give you an idea of what's been happening, in the community. And people say, well, what did you do before? Someone joked and asked me if I'm starting the fires. My dad actually asked me. He says, are you starting the fires for fundraising? And people say, like, what happened before SCU was around? And the reality is that there wasn't. Your tree got hit by lightning. You called the fire brigade. They maybe did or didn't arrive. And you sat around waiting and prayed that it went out on its own. And sometimes you lucked out and sometimes you didn't. And that was pretty much, what happened beforehand. We've found, so there's different pillars within the FCU. There's awareness and containment. And I want to just touch on a little bit on the awareness side. We've found through various fire safety days that we've done that there's been a complete lack of awareness within the community regarding fire. Not just regarding fire, but regarding fire safety and how to protect your home. Previously there wasn't a number to call in the event of an active fire, and we linked up with the CSO control room, and we used their number 086 18 00018. You can also scan the QR code, and we'll put the number straight into your phone. And we chose this number. The CSO control room is a number that's already well known within the community, and we want it to be simple and easy when a fire comes out. Pick up the phone, call. That dispatcher will handle everything from there. She'll call the relevant medical, she'll call the relevant fire department, she'll dispatch the relevant teams. If there's more resources needed, that control room can handle all of that. So that just touches on the phone number. And then we've started, due to the lack of awareness that we picked up, we've started with various awareness days within the community. So we've run a fire safety awareness day. We've run 2 of them, one locally in Glen Hazel and one in the Sandton area, selling all types of extinguishers, smoke alarms, fire blankets, and we've realized, that the turnout was great, thank God, but it scares you to realize that all these people didn't have this beforehand. They didn't have these equipment in their homes beforehand. So that's what we've done. Just to give you guys, sorry, I'm jumping between a few slides here.
Josh, can I just ask just a favor? If you can go back to the slide before, I just want to just wait 1 second there, because I just would like each and every one of our viewers to write the number down and put it in their phones, because I think that this is probably the most important part of the entire call. Because as I said last time we were on the show, if there was a fire, I would phone Netanel Aziz, which is clearly the wrong thing to do. So if we can just pause for 2 secs, I for one do want to just add this into my phone.
086 18 00018, or you can just take your camera and scan if you've got a barcode reader, you can scan the barcode.
Okay. All right. Wonderful, Josh. So there we go. 086 18 00018. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just going to go back to this first slide. Sorry, before we started sharing the screen, just some fun facts. You can see there, we've had about 30 response calls in the past 3 months or so. We've got 14 volunteer responders. The entire organization works on volunteers. There are no, in terms of overheads in that, and we'll discuss it a little bit later, there are no overheads from a staff point of view. Everything's done voluntarily. We've got 2 trailers, each holding 1,000 liters, which my colleague Yosef will discuss in a few moments. We currently have 3 vehicles. We've had over 300 families that have bought safety equipment at our various safety days. And as you can see on the bottom right-hand side, our dedication to the community is endless. That's our kind of our goal. I'm just going to scroll down to another picture here. So you can see here, guys on a call. We work very well with the fire department. I'll discuss them more on the containment side. I'm just going through 1 or 2 pictures here so guys watching can get a bit of an idea of what we do and how we do it.
Yeah.
Different calls, different scenes, different members involved, different times of day and night, etc. And I'll come back to this. So back to the awareness thing, Rob. We ran these fire safety days, and one of the things we put out just before Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur was a fire safety and burn guide. It was sent out digitally on various social media platforms. Perhaps we can do it. We'll probably send it out again just before Hanukkah. Just giving the community an idea as to, number 1, what to look out for. Number 2, how to treat various burns. Number 3, how to prevent a fire from starting in the first place. That's the best bet, So that's what that burn guide goes to talk to mainly. And just something, regarding the fire safety days. You'll see here we did one in one in August in Glen Hazel, and then one in November in Sandton. We had a story actually where there was a lady who left her iron on, and the smoke alarm went off, and she put it out with one of the extinguishers that she had bought from us, only a few days prior. And that's a classic example of what we're trying to achieve. We're not looking for houses to go to put out fires. We're looking to create a fire awareness. God forbid there's a fire that we need to be at, we'll be there. But the best bet is to have the awareness in the first place so that the fire doesn't start. Because fire is always going to do some form of damage, unfortunately. It's one of those, I'll discuss it again in a minute. There's a few things I'll discuss in a few minutes. But we were today at Rama City, which is part of the relief work that we do. We went to a village there to teach them a bit of first aid, a bit of fire safety awareness. And I was saying to the people there, especially in the informal settlements, a fire takes 2-3 minutes. And if it's not contained within 2-3 minutes, it does terrible, terrible damage. So our biggest push is for the community to have a smoke alarm in a house. It's something not expensive, so easy to install. You can do it with double-sided tape if you don't want to drill into your ceiling. A fire blanket near the stove, near the kitchen. Also, 150 Rand, 160 Rand, they're not expensive. And it can save you hundreds of thousands of rands. Whether you're insured or not is irrelevant. It's the pain in the backside that you're going to have to go through, to claim and rebuild and etc. Having fire extinguishers and knowing how to use them. Something so important and so easy and so simple and so cheap. We've got a new fire extinguisher that we're actually trying to get out, mainly for the informal settlements, but actually everywhere. It's like a 50 Rand fire extinguisher. I showed it to you, I explained it to you offline, I think. It's called Put It Out. It's made up of vinegar and baking soda in a little sachet. You pop this little thing inside, and you've got yourself a 50 Rand fire extinguisher. Never needs to be serviced. It's not heavy. It's not toxic. It's not going to do any damage. It's vinegar and bicarb, things that you find in your kitchen anyways. And it's a great product. When we were in Rama City today, we were trying to make a plan to get them a bunch of those, so that especially where people live close together in a block of flats in an informal settlement. One house burns, the next one burns very quickly. Even though we have bricks between our walls, between one flat and the other, it doesn't take a long time for fire to go through a ceiling or through a door, etc., and create more damage.
Josh, can I just interrupt you for 1 second? I put my hand up here for all our there we go, for all our viewers and for yourself and Yosef to see. I was totally unaware of these awareness days, and I think that what the base program is trying to do amongst these Chesed shows is to create awareness in the community as to exactly what's out there in terms of the various organizations. This is now the second one on Zaka. I think we are certainly creating a lot more awareness, and on the YouTube channel, I'm led to believe that as at the end of the week before last, there were over 310 viewers of it. So it is certainly becoming, and it's a newish organization, Zaka. So I think it is certainly, we're certainly raising the awareness, which is exactly what we're trying to achieve on the show. But the reality of the situation, a lot of what you're saying in terms of safety blankets, smoke detectors, what to do with this mixing of all of this kind of stuff, I think it needs to be done practically. And I'm sure that there are a heap load of viewers here are asking themselves, as I am, when is the next show? And when, not the next show, I mean, not the next Zoom show, I'm saying, when is the next live show of the demonstration, Safety Day?
So I don't have the next one. With COVID and that, we've been playing it very carefully, trying to play this carefully as we can, should I say. We'd obviously like to do one again in January. I'll commit to say late January, early Feb. I need to check with the team, but ideally that's when we'd like to do another one. Late January, early Feb, at the parking lot opposite Moishi's Butchery. That's most likely where we'll run it. But we'll put all the information out on social media, on our Instagram page, on our Facebook page. We now have our website, which is live, Zaka.org.za, and you can go there and check that out. So that's pretty much where we put out our info on our various days.
Wonderful. And Josh, what we'll do on this show is once you've got the date, we will advertise the date as well for our viewers as well. Perfect.
All
right. Back to you, Josh.
So yeah, I'm gonna wrap up in a minute or two. So this is just, if you can see on the shared screen, these are some of the projects that we've done. We went to this place called Rama City out there in Pretoria West, just to help other communities to understand about fire. So we joined up with Medi Response. We did some first aid, and we taught them how to do sustainable farming. That was another group that joined up with us. And it's just about spreading that message. It's such an important message: fire awareness, fire safety. Unfortunately, Pretoria West is not an area that we're necessarily going to respond to. Besides which, Tswana has quite a good response time with fire. And I think it's important that the community understands we have a very good working relationship with government, thank God, especially with the fire department in this division of Zaka. And we're not there to show them up in any way. We're there to fill a gap. It takes X amount of time for that fire truck to get to your house for whatever reasons. And I'm not going to go into the whole political reasons and the whole operational reasons because it's not relevant. What's relevant is that when there's a fire, call that number that you saw. The fire truck will be dispatched. But until they get there, you can be comforted knowing that there's another team called the FCU that will be there within minutes with water ready to spray on your house. We were able to, I'm going to move away a little bit from the awareness side, more into the containment side, what we actually do, and then Yosef will discuss in more detail, some of the equipment we use and some of the equipment we have and some of the equipment that we want to have. So our mandate is very much so not to go into a burning building. I've said it a few times. We're not trained to go into a burning building. We stand outside and we fight the fire from outside. Yosef will explain to you a little bit about the types of hoses we use and pressures, etc. Try to keep it as simple as you can. But Rob, I remember a call I was on many years ago, a fire call, and the family was trapped inside the building. I'm not going to go into the details too much of the call where it was. The family were trapped inside the building, and guys were willing to run in and risk our lives to go get that family out. And the fire chief made it very clear, because he ultimately runs the scene. He made it very clear that anyone who enters the property will be arrested on the spot. We were forced to stand outside the house and listen to this family scream to death, literally. Something like that doesn't go away from you. Unfortunately, in these organizations that look after the community, we see things that can't be unseen and we hear things that can't be unheard. Like we mentioned 2 weeks ago regarding Ethiopia. And those kind of things stick with you forever. And we want to make sure, and it wasn't because the fire department wasn't there. It was just because it was too dangerous to go in. And that's with the fire department standing right there. It was too dangerous for them to go in. So we're very, very specific and careful with our volunteers that no one is going into a burning building, because unfortunately we don't have the equipment and we don't have the training, that God forbid you go in and you collapse or a wooden beam lands on your head or something happens. I'm not trained to go in after you and bring you out. So our mandate is very much containment. And I'm stressing this with that story, Rob, because I think it's important. The community mustn't think, God forbid, in an event, God forbid, that there's, someone stuck or trapped inside. Yes, we'll do everything in our power and in our safety, within the safety guidelines, to get that family to safety. But we're not running into a burning building. It's not what we do.
No. And I think, Josh, I think, the point that you're making and the point that I'm trying to stress here, and without being alarmist, I'm certainly not being alarmist, but, what this show is really highlighting is the need for preventative care beforehand. So, please God, all our viewers and the community can get trained in this fire, can get the equipment needed so that, your proverbial burning beam doesn't fall on anyone's head. And you guys don't have to come in. As Alan Zulberg, the father of Rabbi Aaron and Moshe Zulberg, said to me yesterday in Shul, please God, Zaka's only seen on a Zoom call.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah. So look, like I said in the beginning, awareness is the most important part. We teach it at the fire safety days. Do you live in a double-story house? Okay, well, if the whole bottom ground floor is burning, how are you getting out the house? You're on a double-story or a triple-story house in Johannesburg, some houses. What's your plan? Do you have a ladder? Do you have a window? Do you have a rope? Do you have a spare staircase? I'm not saying that we have to start panicking, but at least be aware of it, so that when, God forbid, it does happen, and I keep saying God forbid because Really, really, God forbid. But God forbid, when it does happen, what is your plan? How are you going to get out? You know, some people have gates that block off the entertainment side of the house, you know, and the sleeping side of the house, especially here in Johannesburg. And this is applicable to everyone, by the way. Yes, in various provinces in the country or in the world, if there's anyone international watching, yes, there's different response times, and some fire departments are quicker than others, etc. But the reality is that fire can happen anywhere, at any time, to anyone of any wealth. It doesn't matter what, rich or poor, any race, any religion. Fire, it happens. And when it happens, it's unforgiving. If you're prepared for it, that's your chance to survive. And that's your chance to hopefully, you know, keep your possessions alive as well. So plan carefully. Sit down with your family. I've done it with mine. Sit down with your family. Guys, if there's a fire outside the trellis door, what are we going to do? No, we're going to go out the special escape window that we have. Okay, cool. If there's a fire near the gas fry, what are we going to do? No, we're going to call the 086 number and we're going to grab a hydrant, an extinguisher, etc., etc., etc. I think there's a certain sense of panic, and that's what we're trying to fix here with the awareness days. Don't panic. Be prepared for it, because it can happen. And fires happen, especially in Jewish homes, with hot trays and candles and extension cords and, you know, all the hot water urns and all this kind of stuff. You know, be prepared for it. You'll laugh at my house. I look like a little fire station. I've got little extinguishers. I happen to get them at a really good price initially, but I have little extinguishers dotted around my house. I have one at the pool motor. I have one at the braai. I have one by the generator, by the inverter. I have one in the garage. You know, I have them all over. I'm not saying you have to go crazy. I'm a little bit extreme in that department. So those that know me will know. Maven Yovin, as they say. But the reality is be prepared, and don't be schnoop on getting a few extinguishers in your house, and don't be schnoop on putting a fire blanket. It's not should I get one or should I get two. It's how many do you think you need for the house, and then go and get those and put them in the house and never have to use them. Like you said, you know, please God, you never see Zaka except on a Zoom call. Please God, you never use your extinguisher, but have it there when you do need it. Just one other point I want to touch on, and then I'm going to hand over to Yosef.
No, Josh, before you touch on your last point, can I just make 2 points? There have been some viewers asking for the emergency number for those viewers who've logged in late. Just to stress again, and I can't stress it's most important, the emergency number is 086 18 1018. I'll repeat, 086 18 000 18, and it is on the all panelists and attendees Q&A answer from Moshe Zulberg. And we will again, when at the end, give this number again. Josh, just a question, and that is, a viewer on the show realizes that their house is wholly and solely inadequately equipped for a fire, and they're quite nervous, and rightly so. Tomorrow, can they phone Zaka, and do you guys come out and advise what to do, or do we have to wait, go to read literature and wait for the next live day?
No, so I forgot to mention earlier on our website, it should be live in the next few days. I actually just need to check with our developer. It should be live in the next few days. We're opening a store, an online store, where you can go and you can buy your extinguishers and your smoke alarms and your fire blankets, etc. And that's what we recommend. But until then, don't delay. Go to Builders Warehouse. Go anywhere where whoever's selling fire extinguishers, go buy one. Go buy two. If you're not sure, you're welcome to call the emergency line. They'll put you through to one of the Zaka guys, and we'll give you some advice over the phone. I don't want to volunteer that we're going to go from house to house doing assessments. We're not professionals in the sense of fire professionals. I don't want to take on that role or that responsibility. I'm happy to give free advice. A couple of guys have called the emergency line and asked to speak with myself or Yosef or any of the other guys, and the control will pass on that information to us, through our internal groups.
No, and but Josh, what I'm saying is that as a minimum, the viewers, I assume, can call the emergency line, get put through someone and can say, listen, go get a blanket, go get a fire extinguisher.
I can tell, absolutely. Call the emergency line, but I can tell you now, as a bare minimum, at least 2 extinguishers in your house with a fire. The bare minimum, here, Rob, I'll give you the bare minimum. A smoke alarm in your kitchen, not directly above your stove, just in case, you know, your wife's not the best cook, but not directly above the stove, somewhere near in the kitchen, but towards the end of the kitchen. 2 fire extinguishers, 1 by your bedrooms, 1 near the kitchen, okay? And there's multitude of types of different fire extinguishers. Stick with the basic DCP, dry chemical powder. That's what it's called, the DCP. It's your standard one. It's the one you're going to find. It's the more affordable one. There's other fancier ones that get a lot more expensive, a lot more technical. But a DCP, get something that you can carry, something that you can handle. Those little 0.6 kilo things, they're good. They're better than not having anything, but they're not ideal. You want typically a 2 kilo, 2.5 kilo, a 4.5 kilo, or if you're feeling nice, big and strong, a 9 kilo. I have 9 kilos and 4.5 kilos throughout my house. And have 2 of those. I'm talking about bare minimum. I can go a lot further than that. I can tell you to have 1 in your garage. I can tell you to have 1 by the Wendy house where you keep the lawnmower, 1 by the pool motor if you have a pool, 1 by the braai if you have a, you know, you can go a bit wild. I'm at a point of something very simple during Sukkot. I took one of my extinguishers and I put it right near the sukkah, right? What's the chances of a fire in the sukkah? Extremely high. Between the candles and the lights with the electrical work that I DIY'd myself, you know, immediately there you've got a potential high risk for a fire with us guys doing DIY. But I'd say the bare minimum: a smoke alarm in the kitchen, 2 fire extinguishers of decent size, and a fire blanket near your stove. The fire blanket, Rob, I'll just talk about for a minute, is you know, you have a pot of oil on the stove, and what happens with oil when it hits a certain temperature, it catches a light, it bursts into a flame. What's your first reaction? Grab water and throw it on the fire, right? Water puts out fire. Well, I want you to go to YouTube after this and Google YouTube some videos of pouring water on an oil fire. It only causes more fire, right? I'm not going to go into the physics of it. I'm sure that most people understand it. But with an oil fire, there's a panic, and that's probably your most common fire in the kitchen. You know, you're busy with a kid, or you're busy that the phone rang, or something happened, and you left the pot on the stove or the pan on the stove, and it catches a light. In those cases, you take a fire blanket and you throw it over the fire. It's a quick blanket that's got 2 tabs. You pull down. It's a Kevlar blanket, so it won't catch a light, and you throw it over the fire. And just to explain to you, there's a fire triangle that allows fire to burn. There's oxygen, there's heat, and there's oxygen, heat, and fuel. Now, in order to put out a fire, you need to put out one of those sides of that triangle. So by throwing a fire blanket over, you're suffocating the fire, you're taking away the oxygen element, right? The next thing you do is turn off the gas or turn off the power, because you want to eliminate the fuel elements. The heat, not in your control in this environment. And that's, I think, a super important thing to remember regarding fires. You want to always, if a fire is small enough, fight it. Like I shared to these guys today in Rama City, there's a time where it's stay and play and a time where it's run and go, okay? When the fire is small and you've got your fire extinguisher or your fire blanket, you can handle it, lekker, go for it, right? That's why you've got them in these equipment in your house. When the fire is bigger than you and you cannot handle it, don't sit there trying to fight it. Turn off the gas, get the kids out the house. Leave the diamond ring, leave the teddy bear, leave the sforim, leave the tefillin, whatever it is, God forbid, that you're going to have to leave in the house, is worth less than a life, chas v'shalom. So, you know, and I cannot stress that enough. We've seen it so many times, people running, I just need to get my ID, I just need to get my passport. Leave it. All of that is replaceable. Grab your kids, grab your family. If you've got old people living with you who can't move so well, grab them and get out the house and get away from the house. The most important thing, Rob, is to guys must identify where there's a hydrant near the property, right? We're coming, you know, as Yosef will explain, with 1,000 liters. Once we've used 1,000 liters, that gets used in minutes. Once we've used 1,000 liters, we're out of water. We have to go to a hydrant to fill up with water. If you tell us that there's a hydrant nearby, we can run up to hundreds of meters of fire hoses from a hydrant to our trailers, and we can then fight that fire all day. Or should I say contain that fire all day. And that's really, I mean, that's kind of where I'm going to discuss. I'm going to hand over to Yosef now. Yosef is the head of the FCU. Yosef
Josh,
Jameson.
I do have a question which either you or Yosef can answer. I don't know who's more qualified to answer this, but it's just following, and then Josh, then you can introduce yourself properly. Sorry for interrupting you.
No problem.
But you did allude, or you boldly said, everyone must identify the nearest fire hydrant. Just for those who don't know, how would one identify, and where typically would one find, the last thing you want is a fire, and then you got to start searching for the so-called fire hydrant. No one's going to be of sane mind to start thinking there and then where they remembered seeing a fire hydrant.
So typically with a fire hydrant, good question. Sorry, I should expound on it a bit more. With a fire hydrant, there are in different shapes and sizes. And if you live in a complex, in a residential complex, typically you'll find a big red pipe above ground, typically, not always. If you don't live in a complex, on a normal freestanding house, you'll often find them in a yellow box in the ground. We're working with another organization now to try and mark all the fire hydrants in our areas. To go through.
Josh, when you say you'll find them in the ground, just can you elaborate where?
So it's a yellow box. In other words, you'll see what looks like a gutter. Yosef, what's the word? Like a gutter box in the ground, right? And it's got a yellow cover, and it will say FH on it, or H. Or on the street, you'll see a circle with an H or an F or an FH in it, all relating to the word fire, fire hydrant, etc. Your question isn't. It's very difficult to find these things for someone who doesn't know what they're looking for. In the ground, basically, you open this lid, and in the ground, sometimes it can be a meter down. You'll find there's a special attachment which we put on a standpipe, which Joseph will explain, and we connect up to that standpipe and connect our pipes into that, and then we can run water from there. It isn't easy, Rob, to find these things. There are multiple ways of looking for them. The first thing is look for a little sign. There's a whole bunch of new signs that have gone up around Glen Hazel now that says fire hydrant. It's got a picture of a fire hydrant on it. Look out for those signs. If you're not sure, then contact us and we'll try and find one in your street before, God forbid, a fire breaks out. There are other ways of looking for them, but they're more technical, Rob. I mean, I can share it with you on a post.
That's fine. I think it is important, listening now to Josh, what you said is that each and every one of us need to identify the nearest fire hydrant and let our families know where they are. But Josh, I assume that each house doesn't have its own mark.
No. Alavai, that would be wonderful. No, typically you'll find one a block, or one per city block. But it could be one on this corner for the entire city block. Do you know what I mean? And it could be that there's one on either corner of a city block. This one doesn't work and this one does work. We had a fire call a few weeks ago in Norwood. We ran, Yosef, how many meters? I think 400 meters of pipe down a road.
400 meters.
400 meters of pipe down a road. So that we were the fire source for the fire department. When they arrived, they used our hose to clip into their truck to be able to have water. So that's the other role we play. And I didn't touch on that, but obviously as soon as the fire department does arrive, we kind of pull back and we offer our services. We'll say to them, guys, this is your scene. What do you need us to do? And every fire we've been on, every fire chief that's been, station commander that's been on our scenes has only had praises for us. Guys, this is amazing what you do. It allows us to get to the fire quicker. We don't have to go looking around for a hydrant or for water. So yes, definitely. Number one, just to sum up, Rob, number one, protect the inside of your house. Fire extinguishers, smoke alarms, fire blankets. That's number one. Number two, have a plan. Have some kind of plan to get out of the house in the event of a fire. Discuss it with your family, discuss it with your domestic worker, discuss it with everyone. And number three, locate the fire hydrant nearest to your property. If you need help with it, you're welcome to contact the emergency line, and they'll pass the info on to us, and we'll try and locate it and pin it on a shared map that we have.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you, Josh. That was most informative. Back to you, Josh, to introduce Yosef.
So I'm just going to introduce Yosef Jameson, who started up the fire containment unit with us about a year ago. His knowledge of water and pumps is phenomenal. He's put together most of this stuff on his own, and we call him our Chief Water Technician. He heads up the fire containment unit together with Yossi Lazarus, who wasn't able to join us this evening. And yeah, Yossif's going to share with you a little bit about some of the equipment we have, some of the equipment, how it works, and some of the equipment that we don't have that we would like to get. So Yossif, over to you.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Rob, and thanks, Rabah, for this opportunity. And thanks to all the listeners. Josh, just before I get into the technical details, I can just touch on one thing. Another important thing is, if God forbid the day comes when you do have to run out of your house with your family, try and the minute someone from Zaka or the fire department or CSO ever arrives on scene, if you have things like gas or ammunition or something that potentially is explosive, just let the people know. It just makes people's lives a little bit safer when we know what we're dealing with in the event that there is gas or something that could explode, just so that we know what we're dealing with prior to us going in. And second of all, don't worry about your property. Leave your gate open so that we've got access when we need it. To take things forward, when we started this, as Josh mentioned earlier, the first week, the Sunday morning, Josh got hold of some guys who do farm trailers for the farms, and we ordered what we felt at the time was based on what we could afford, and what we needed was an entry-level fire trailer. They took a lot longer than we expected, but once we received that trailer has a 1,000-liter tank on it, has 4 fire extinguishers, and a pump that will allow us to put about, I'll put it in terms, does about 5 or 6 times what your standard garden hose would do in terms of volume a minute, at 3 times the pressure. Just as an indication, we can empty a 1,000-liter tank in 4 or 5 minutes. And we started with that. We built in the ability to take water from a municipal hydrant, put it into the tank, and from there we were able to pump and fight fires as and when we could. Shortly after that, we realized that due to the problem, and it's unfortunate that we have to deal with it, fire hydrants aren't always reliable, as many people I think in the Greater Glen Hazel area today know. There's no water in the area. When there's no water, the fire hydrants are dry. So if you see in the first picture, I know you can't see my mouse, but Josh, maybe just put your mouse on the suction pump. There's this blue pump that we have over there that Josh is pointing to now. And what that gives us the ability, and as far as we are aware, and we've spoken to many fire chiefs, we're the only people in the country who offer it. We have an ability to drain any body of water and either feed it into our trailers and therefore use it to fight a fire, or feed it into a fire engine so that the fire department can fight a fire. And we use that pump. We've used it once before when we had to. There was a fire at somebody's office and we were left with no other option. We couldn't find a fire hydrant. I saw a fish pond. I said, sorry, fish, and we drained the fish pond. And we used it to fight the fire. When we were finished, we refilled the fish pond and everyone was happy. But the idea is that in the event that we can't get a fire hydrant or there is no local water, we can go to the closest neighbor with a swimming pool, and we'll empty your average house swimming pool in about 2.5 hours, just as an idea of the volume of water that we can move. And we have the ability, like I said, to put that into a fire engine or into our trailers and use that to carry on fighting a fire. Once we had that, we realized that the way pumps and trailers were, we managed, so the initial trailer was sponsored entirely out of the volunteers' pockets, and we just felt that we had to get it going. So we got the trailer we could get. We got a standpipe, which allows you to connect into that underground hydrant. And there's a special key that you need to open up the hydrant. And we got that. We got 4 lengths of hose, which allowed us, a hose is about 30 meters in length. So we got 2 attack hoses, two hoses that we could connect from a hydrant to the trailer. And we had the best setup that at that time we could do. After a few scenes, we realized that we were seriously ill-equipped. We then set out to get some funding from some community members that we each knew personally. Again, dipped deeper into our pockets and took out a bit more cash. And we built a trailer that we use today as our primary response trailer. It carries with it 4 hoses, 4 lengths of attack hoses. Josh, where you're running, that's the red trailer there that you're seeing. It's got a rapid response trailer for in the event that we're dealing with a smaller fire. It carries the suction pump that allows us to drain a pool, and it carries a pump that will give you 7 times the water pressure of your standard garden hose, and it will empty that 1,000 liters in 2.5 minutes if we allow it to. And the idea is that it allows us to spray water further and faster at a fire. And the reason for using water on most fires, as Josh said, the fire is made up of a triangle: heat, fuel, and oxygen. The reason water is used on all fires is you cool down the heat, you eliminate one of the triangle, therefore you can put out the fire. So if we can be further away and put more water on a fire, we all stay safer and we can cool the fire down quicker, therefore hopefully extinguishing it a lot quicker. And that's really what we have to date. Along with it, we have there's hoses that allow us to carry about, to any scene will take about 600 meters worth of supply hose. That allows us to take, as Josh mentioned, we've done it in the past, water from more than 1 block away and use it to supply us or a fire engine. And that allows us to not be limited to being 30 or 60 meters away from a fire hydrant. We can run a lot further, which we found in the past has obviously been very beneficial. In addition to that, there are 2 different kinds of fire hydrants in the ground in South Africa. We carry a standpipe that allows us to connect to each of them. And the view in the future is to allow members of the team to carry standpipes in their vehicle, because to get to scene with a standpipe and start opening a hydrant and flushing it, which takes 5-10 minutes, saves precious minutes while the trailer is still responding from scene. So we'd like, obviously funding permitting, to start equipping guys with their own standpipes and potentially 1 or 2 hoses in their vehicles, just to try and save as much time as possible, so that when the trailer arrives, we can start getting water on the fire as quick as possible and continuously without running out of water while we start laying hoses. Some equipment that we're looking to get on top of that is ladders. So in the event that somebody is stuck upstairs and they didn't do the forward planning, we have an ability to hopefully supply them with a way out of their house quickly before it's too late, God forbid. That is also useful in the event that we got to climb over a wall or do whatever we have to do. We've used them in the past, and it's something we do need to add to our repertoire. The other thing is we partnered with Fleet Africa, and they generously gave us a vehicle to use. Josh showed a picture of it as a response vehicle. And that's really used as a mechanism for somebody to get to scene with as much equipment as possible, as quick as possible, while somebody goes to the base and fetches one of the trailers and gets us to scene. That's really from an equipment side.
That's it. Wonderful. Thanks, Yosef. Thank you very much. As we approach the end of the show, I'd like to just, before I wrap up and hand back to Rabbi Aaron Zulberg, Josh, any final comments over this program, the program before, that you'd like to make aware for our viewers?
First of all, Shkrach, Yosef. As you guys can see, we have, as Yosef mentioned, we have the equipment we have. There's obviously a need for more equipment to grow and expand, and please God, push this. Right now we're in the Glen Hazel area. That's where we're based. We've got a garage area in the Glen Hazel area. Ideally, we'd love to, copy and paste that in other areas. It does require funding. It does require commitment and effort. So if guys do want to, volunteer in that, they're welcome to contact the control room, leave their name and number. We'll follow up with you. There are various criteria, but we'll discuss it, with each person one-on-one. And for those that, I mentioned right in the beginning about funding, we're a completely volunteer organization. We don't sit on a big cash pile or big reserves. We literally fundraise as and when needed. Our overheads are operational overheads. So the overhead we have is when we need to respond to a fire, we create the overhead. There's petrol, there's call-out fees, etc. We don't have day-to-day, month-to-month overheads, thank God. So the money that we do fundraise goes into operational, physical call-outs, whether it be a Chesed Showcase call, whether it be training overseas, like we mentioned 2 weeks ago, we get invited because of the commitment in South Africa. Not all the teams in the world get invited. South Africa specifically get invited to both Israel and America to train with the National Guard and the Israeli Home Front Command. Those things require funding. Population intelligence training requires funding, and obviously the FCU, which is probably more day-to-day in your face, requires its funding. So I posted on the share screen, the wallet doc, a barcode there. We're very into our barcodes, as you can see. Rob, you just take your phone with your scanner and you can scan it, and it takes you straight to the wallet doc portal. So I do encourage those to go out and support a phenomenal organization. The guys in the organization, and I think I can say this, that there's no glory in it. Yeah, maybe on the fire side, it looks cool, it feels cool, it's not cool. You're wearing a lot of gear, it's hot, on the Chesed Showcase side, you come in quiet. It's like a stealth mode. You come in quietly, you do your job, you leave quietly. The family often don't even know we were there, right? So I do encourage guys to reach out and support a phenomenal organization. And Rob, I just want to end up and say thank you again to you and to Rabbi Zolberg and the base and everyone behind the scenes. I know there's a whole team behind the scenes for making this all happen.
Wonderful, Josh. It's only a pleasure, and it's been an absolute delight hosting yourself and Yosef tonight. And like I said 2 weeks ago, Hashem should just bless each and every one of you, your families, and the appreciation of your families for the time that you guys spend away from your families. You literally, on the front line. There's an element of risking your lives over here for us as a community. And, I appeal to the community to support Zaka. It's critical for all our success as a viable community. And please, God, Josh, Yosef, you guys and your families and everyone around you, your precious volunteers will be safe and won't be called upon to be put into hazardous situations for that.
Rob, I'm gonna just mute myself and turn my video off. I actually have the control room calling me now. I just want to make sure it's not a call out.
No problem. Wonderful. No problem, Josh. I just want to stress one last time before my final hand back to Rabbi Zolberg that the number to be called in case of an emergency is 086 18 00018. I repeat, 086 18 00018. Rabbi?
Thanks, Rob, and a big shukar to Yosef and to Rabbi Green. On a personal note, and on behalf of the organizing group of this series, Soul and the whole base community, in fact, the whole Jewish community, I want to say thank you again. In particular, this time to Josh and to Yosef for allowing us this opportunity to see your commitment and to hear again what it is that you do, hearing about what it is that you do and how you do it. It's truly a Kiddush Hashem and very special. It is also, again, a true indication of the uniqueness and special nature of our wonderful Jewish community. And to echo the words that Rob mentioned earlier, Hashem should continue to bless you all and your wonderful families with much bracha and atzlocha, that you should be able to continue to do this most important work and so much more. I also want to mention our partners in the series, Soul, Ran Baked Kishuni and Robin Smukla and Josh Sevitz. Thank you to each of you for the partnership and for all that you do. Robert Katz, thank you as always. The time, effort, and care that you put into our special community, greatly appreciated. On a personal note, I like you very much, and I'm grateful to know you. Thank you, Ariel Weber, for all that you do. The series wouldn't be what it is without your involvement, and always want to say thank you to my brother Moshe and to Jonamo for all that he does to make these webinars a reality. I want to take the opportunity as well to say a very big mazel tov to him and Daphne on the recent bar mitzvah of their son. And please God, we should all only be able to share in simchas, i.e. all of life should be a simcha, and all of our experiences and interactions should be interactions of joy and celebration. But in relation to the technology, we really could not do this without you. I also want to mention again, as I mentioned last week, that we have done our best to try and host many, many Chesed organizations. That being said, the truth is that there are many organizations that we are yet to host. And if anyone who is present themselves or knows of any other organization that it would be appropriate for us to showcase, we would love to do that for you. We have one last show next week, and we'll put out the details regarding that in the next couple of days. But the series will continue because the importance of Chesed is tremendous. And to be able to inspire each other, ourselves, to do more Chesed is beyond tremendous. Please God, everyone should realize the importance of Chesed and that everyone has what to contribute. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We look forward to seeing you all again soon. Keep safe and have a very good night.